Happy Thanksgiving to the XRP family. As always, appreciate all the support. Let's take a look at what's happening with the markets today, and of course, what we could be expecting. As always, looking across the board, we're starting to see a little bit of a minor pullback for some coins, as you can see for yourself. We're seeing a little bit of a retracement, and at the same time, 50% of the market, I would say, is still in green. We need to kind of keep in mind that today is a holiday. That kind of needs to be also factored in when we are analyzing the overall markets. But I want you guys to focus on the weekly time frame right now. If you're looking at the weekly time frame, you're starting to see market finally show some sort of a life within itself. You could see across the board, you're seeing some coins actually performing really good. XRP also, up right now, up about 8.5%. So these are things that we don't want to be forgetting. But with that said, let's still not forget the monthly time frame. This gives us a better understanding as to how far the market has retraced. And if you look at it from a monthly time frame, you still see how far we are from where we were prior to obviously, these major retracements. But XRP price right now, as you can see for yourself, $2.22, down about 0.2% in USD, down 1.5% on the Bitcoin comparative. Not bad. A valuation $134.2 billion dollars, and the 24-hour trading volume at 2.8 billion. As always, just a quick disclaimer, anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So take a look at this. Still pending in terms of ETFs, 21 shares, XRP ETF, Wisdom Tree, Hashdex, CoinShares, ProShares, Volatility Shares. So there is literally six different ETFs, spot ETFs we're talking about that are still pending, but you're still missing the big boys. Obviously, we already have one of the big leaders when it comes to asset managers. We do have Franklin Templeton ETF. But if you're looking at it, potential filing before EOI, according to XRP Arthur, Fidelity, BlackRock, ARK Invest, State Street. It just, to me personally, it just makes no sense how they would let, with an asset that is pulling such crazy inflows. And yes, it is true. You guys want to not ignore the inflow numbers that we're seeing. We're going to obviously talk about this quite a bit because this does show us, during the market conditions that we're in, yet you're seeing such positive inflows. And, pretty much I would say since the start of, Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, we have not seen as much inflows that XRP is pulling. Pretty much since the Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you must understand that BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK Invest, State Street, they are aware of these numbers because these ETFs that currently are available on the market, spot XRP ETFs like Bitwise, which is doing great, of course. There's the Franklin Templeton, Canary Capital. These are competitors to these big, institutions such as Fidelity, and obviously these names that we've mentioned. So again, it just makes no sense how they're just going to stay sidelined. Maybe they're, strategically thinking about something, but nonetheless, these. Especially Fidelity and BlackRock, they're such leaders in the financial world that even if they come and file for it later down the road, it would still have a positive impact, just based off of that filing announcement itself, which we've been talking about. But now you're already starting to see that product available in the market. But again, that's my overall take. Do let me know in the comments what you guys personally think. But take a look at this. Bitcoin margin trading volume has hit a new all-time high over the last 4 months. Not always the best part. um Obviously this is showing you that there's interest in the market. People are starting to be optimistic about the market. People are starting to focus on which trend the market is in. This always is not the best thing. Maybe we do see a flush for the market. Maybe we do see the market maker stepping in, but again, you're starting to see retail activity also picking up, and it kind of goes back to what we've been discussing. Were we seeing capitulation over the course of the last few weeks? Because now you're starting to see retail interest flowing into crypto once again. It's not that there was no retail interest before, but it was not at the levels we have seen in the past. So again, that's something we also want to kind of look closely into. But take a look at this. This is where things are getting interesting. So XRP Ledger Exchange Reserve Binance. So XRP reserves are going down on Binance. Binance reserves are, pretty much plummeting fast as long-term and institutional buyers are accumulating XRP. Long consolidation periods in XRP followed by squeezes above key moving averages have historically been followed by strong moves. The most recent reading shows reserve nearing 2.7 billion XRP, down sharply from early October levels. Typically, declining exchange balances signal the long-term holders and institutional buyers are, pretty much absorbing the supply faster than traders and returning it into the market. This trend aligns with the increased spot XRP ETF inflows, which logged more than 21 million inflows on Wednesday. So yeah, it pretty much sums it up. It's not just these ETF managers that are going on board, but OTC, the OTC desks need to actually have XRP, before they could, offer it to maybe, these ETF managers. So when you are getting an inflow, like, when it's a positive inflow for XRP, then, the ETF, manager actually needs to go out and buy XRP, whether it's on the open market, whether it's on the, OTC side of things. Those are things we want to kind of keep in mind. So again, I'm not surprised because again, the landscape is shifting. We've never seen an ETF before, and when you do see positive inflows, you do need to understand that means a purchase of XRP is needed, unless of course they have that already in their reserve to back that purchase. That's also a factor that you need to kind of consider. But take a look at this. Today's Thanksgiving, of course, and this is the historic price pattern for XRP's price over the last 10 years. 2015, we were sitting at 0.0045 cents. 2016 to 0.0067 cents. And what's crazy is I remember this right here, this price action for Ripple, XRP. Because that's when I came into the market first, and XRP was very, very low at that point on 2017, 23 cents, so on and so forth. And historically speaking, over the last 10 years, this is on Thanksgiving, the biggest price XRP has been at $2.22. And of course, one thing a lot of people overlook is, XRP in terms of a valuation standpoint is at its all-time high compared to these levels because circulation supply around here was much lower for XRP compared to where it is now. So that is also something we kind of want to factor in, and the longevity of the project itself. And these massive news that we always hear, these major acquisitions, hidden road, so on and so forth. This is a decade in the making. It's not just happening overnight, which people think it is, but you need to kind of zoom out and take a look at a lot of hurdles that came in their way, and they still managed to stick to their overall promise and what they were building. And here we are to see them finally getting the recognition that they deserve. Moving forward though, Franken Templeton and Canary update their holdings for the holiday, and 1 week total AUM of four funds. So all four funds together sitting at 303 million XRP. That is big numbers in such a short span of time. But remember, with the new ISO 222 standard, as we know, this is being implemented within the financial industry. You can see Ripple moves into ISO 222 is a concentrated effort to, um, spike XRP to the forefront of international finance. Ripple is one to watch as this new global system rolls out. And on top of that, this is very interesting here that I wanted to kind of point out to you guys. So you're starting to look at this and see, this is quite strange. And what I mean by that is retail investors are, as you can see, rewriting the market playbook. Individual investors are now on track for their 23rd consecutive monthly net purchase of stocks. This is only behind the 32-month streak posted between April 2020 and November 2022. Furthermore, retail has been a net buyer ETFs for 158 consecutive trading days. Retail investors have net sold ETFs in just 6 days since the beginning of 2024, all while individual investors have purchased more call than put options on net for 29 consecutive weeks, the longest streak on record. Individual investors are redefining the markets, pretty much stating indicating that retail interest is very strong on the equity side of things. But when you look at it on the crypto side of things, retail sentiment is pretty much at the all-time lows for this bull market. And that is quite an interesting thing to be looking at. But we need to factor in to this market is now very saturated. There's millions of coins, but we haven't really seen a full-fledged altcoin season because a lot of demand factor is on Bitcoin. But retail on the equity side of things is like pretty strong out here. So is this going to happen? Are we going to see a switch happening? Or because again, retail is starting to wake up. I discussed that last night. Is this just short lived, or is it like a return of retail? And maybe with QE starting, a quantitative easing, maybe we do see more liquidity coming into the market from retail. But again, we got to take it one step at a time. But do let me know in the comments what you guys personally think about that. As far as the dominance is concerned, I talked to you guys about how the dominance has seen a major spike, currently sitting at 59.14%. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is still below the 0.50 fib zone. Haven't really seen the price of Bitcoin breaking into the 0.50, as you can see for yourself. We are coming very close to it, but you're starting to notice a little bit of a resistance around 91,900. If this is able to break out, we do enter the 0.50 in my opinion, and we want to turn this resistance into support. Of course, I do project maybe we do see a little bit of rejection, but the way it's accumulating just below here, maybe we do break into the 0.50 and close here. So far, momentum very positive for Bitcoin, and it's holding the ground for itself, especially after having this 6% move towards the upside. Same with XRP. XRP very close to the 0.50 fib zone. I'm sorry, the 38.2 Fibonacci level, and you're starting to notice for XRP there is some resistance around $2.26, and we are ranging quite nicely as well for XRP. A lot of people have forgotten. Go back on November 21st. You're seeing XRP up 22%, and just 2 days back it was up about 26%, but we're seeing a little bit of a minor pullback. So again, XRP looking really good. When you zoom out, that's when you really understand how good XRP price is accumulating. Take a look at it for yourself. A lot of people overlook that, but this is something I will continue to highlight. This is not things that we want to be ignoring. It gives you a better understanding as to how bullish the overall momentum is. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Thank you so much for all the love that you guys show, and we'll see you later. It's been Crypto ZX, and peace out.